beautiful, we're the only
Scarifyer.
Scream for your life!
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Hey, Psycho Nation. We are back. Well, we haven't really gone anywhere, but we'll get into that in a minute. But this is the Scarifyer Halloween special.
Ooh, our first Halloween.
Yes, Psycho Nation, welcome back to Scarifyer. I'm the Ace. With me, as always, Gov.
Hey, it's me, the Gov.
Gov, how we doing?
We're doing pretty good. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Do you want to tell them out in Psycho Nation what we've been up to?
Absolutely. Psycho Nation, first of all, on behalf of the Gov and myself, we want to express our gratitude for everybody's support. It's been a few months since we've had a new show out. Basically what it boils down to is we are reformatting the show to make it a little bit more fun for you guys, a little bit more interactive. Just to give you a little hint of what's to come, we are going to be doing live shows on YouTube.
Yep.
And it's going to be a video feed. Also, hopefully by this weekend, we're almost certain of it.
Yeah.
Our official website will be launched. And there, not only are you going to be able to watch the live feed of the show, you're going to be able to watch and listen to all of our past shows, even back to the Pods and Monster days.
Yep.
Even the shows that we haven't released yet, because we have a backlog of about 4 or 5 shows, right, Gov?
At least. We got a ton of shows that have yet to be released, but we will get them out to you in our archive section. It'll be great.
It'll be all on the website. It'll all be on YouTube. So thanks for hanging with us. Continue to hang with us. But you know what? It's Halloween.
That's right. October 31st, 2019.
This is our Christmas,
Yep.
you horror fans. So we had to do a special show just for this day. And, being us, we decided to review a movie. And a movie that affected us greatly and inspired us to launch this podcast.
Yep.
A movie that got a very dormant horror genre filled with life again. We're talking about Halloween 2018, 1 year later. Did it live up to the hype? Has it still kept the hype? Gov?
Yeah, we've talked about this movie at nauseum length, mostly privately. So now we feel like it's time to put it on audio, recording it, and we're releasing it out to you guys. But for tradition's sake, we are going to turn over briefly to the news desk. What's been going on, Ace, on this October 31st, 2019 edition of Halloween?
Well, Gov, tradition is tradition. And as always, our topics generally come from iHorror.com, sometimes from other places, but it's a primary source of information. And we're really shooting off the hip with this episode, so let's scroll through the news feed. Let's see what we got. All right, so first picture of Art the Clown in Terrifier 2 has been posted. Yes. We will throw that up on our Twitter and Facebook account. That looks pretty cool.
My man, Art.
Can't wait for that movie. Can't wait for that sequel. If you guys haven't done this yet, you're not a horror fan or you just don't know. But Alice Cooper has released an Instagram filter, which is absolutely incredible.
Yes.
You put your, put the camera on your face. It starts playing Welcome to My Nightmare, and his face paint morphs onto yours. It's absolutely insane. Go give it a try if you haven't, if you're a horror fan, or more importantly, like us, a huge Alice Cooper fan.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of fun. Scream Factory is doing a collector's edition of Silver Bullet.
Nice.
How you feel about that? That's a favorite of yours, Gov?
I do like Silver Bullet, so I'm excited to hear that Scream Factory got their hands on it.
Again, we're shooting from the hip here. Just save some time. I'm not going to go into the details of that. You guys can research it on your own, but definitely something to look out for in the stores, online, however you buy your DVDs, Blu-rays, and whatever. For some news that I'm not too thrilled about, Paul Feig is apparently getting the Universal Monsters or the Dark Universe.
Yeah, they're for some stupid ass reason. Universal is trying to milk this Dark Universe campaign they started and ended with one movie, and now they think that Paul Feig is the right guy to be the showrunner, the Kevin Feige, if you will, for the Universal Monsters because he did such a wonderful job with Ghostbusters.
Oh, we don't have time to get into it today, but
I'll save it for now.
And lastly, pretty clever picture from Blumhouse. Again, we'll put it on Twitter, we'll put it on Instagram, we'll put it on Facebook. It's a promo for Black Christmas, their Black Christmas that's coming out, and it's jack-o'-lantern being stabbed with a candy cane.
Cool.
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
Considering today's Halloween, and yeah, that's the news as it stands right now for this Halloween. Gov, any thoughts?
News so far, not too bad. Only one really bad news out of the bunch, so it's okay. But before we get into the in-depth look of Halloween 2018, it's time for a shameless plug. Now, if you are a part of Psycho Nation and you live in the Glens Falls, Queensbury, Lake George area, where we currently reside, you might have heard of a little show called Clue with the Shadowcast that's being performed at the Charles R. Wood Theater. And I'm going to plug it right now because it is a fantastic show. Now, what is a Shadowcast? For you Rocky Horror Picture Show fans, you know what it is. It's where it's a showing of the movie and a group of actors act out the movie as the movie plays along. And you get to do a lot of cool interactive things like talk back at the performers, you get to throw things at them. We have a whole list of things that you get to do, and yes, I said we, meaning the Gov, is in this show. So we're showing 1985 Clue and performing with it at the Charles R. Wood Theater, presented by Art in the Public Eye. Guys, it's a fantastic show, it's a fantastic group of people, and it's a right way to end your Halloween season. The shows are Friday and Saturday, November 1st and 2nd. On Friday, the show is at 7:30 p.m., and Saturday, it's at two shows, 3 p.m. and 7:30. So come on down to the Charles R. Wood Theater and check out Clue with Shadowcast.
All right, sounds great. Can't wait to see that. So, here we are, Halloween 2018.
Yes.
Gov, give me some backstory.
Oh, God, where do you even start with this backstory? This to get to this movie is a long process, but I'm gonna streamline this a little bit. It's kind of long story short. It all harkens back to the Rob Zombie movies. After they made the dismal H2, they wanted to, yeah, exactly. They wanted to continue the franchise with a movie called Halloween 3D, not involving Rob Zombie, but still using his continuity that he set up in his two movies. And that was going to go to the My Bloody Valentine's guys. And, because we all remember that movie. They were going to take a crack at it. For some reason, didn't get off the ground, got canceled. And then the two guys who made Saw 4, can't remember their names right now, forgive me, came in with a brand new pitch to Dimension Films with a little treatment called Halloween Returns. And this was going to be the first attempt to wipe off all continuity except for the first two movies. It was going to take place after the second movie, and I believe it was going to involve Michael Myers standing trial for his crimes. And he escapes and goes after the jury that was going to convict him, because when I think Halloween, I think jury vengeance.
Well, honestly, I don't think that's a bad concept. I think it would have turned Michael Myers back into a more random killer. I mean, that's
not really random. That's pretty distinct.
Well,
who he's targeting.
I mean, I guess it takes the whole Laurie Strode aspect pretty much out of it, and opens your doors open for more creative. I don't know. I think that would have been a pretty cool concept, personally.
Yeah.
Again, it's Halloween, so yeah, as long as it happens on Halloween, that's all you really need.
So, as this is going on, John Carpenter, the father of the series, was doing a lot of talking about the series itself, its various sequels, and how he hasn't really seen them, how he hasn't gotten residual checks for them, and how he just kind of blindly hates them. And then it hit him that all he's doing is, as he put it, jabberjawing, and he decided to do something about it. And he threw his hat back into the Halloween realm and said if there's going to be a new movie, he'd like to be involved on an executive producer level.
That's big.
At this point, though, however, Dimension was not able to greenlight Halloween Returns into production. So they ended up selling the rights to the series to Universal Pictures, co-financing with Jason Blum of Blum House. There, they threw out the entire concept for Halloween Returns and started brand new, meaning they were going to do the fateful, the true follow-up to the original 1978 Halloween and make the definitive sequel. And they got on board to pen the script Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, who you may know from the Pineapple Express movie. And first glance, you're like, random guys to be given the keys to the Halloween kingdom. But they pumped out a script that had a lot of John Carpenter influence in it. It's all over it. David Gordon Green's directing, and it didn't get real traction until the one, the only, Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to come back because, in her words, the script was that good.
Had a little help from her godson, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, sure. Yeah, him too.
According to her, she kind of pushed her into it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
so that's the development in the nutshell. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot more details into it. We just don't got that kind of time, people. So the movie was filmed and released nearly 40 years later, almost to the date, on October 19th, 2018. Michael, after 40 years, comes home.
all right. I mean, I took a day off from work to go see this. I was super excited about it. Mm-hmm. The trailers got me pumped. I listened to a podcast that chronicled every single movie and single thing that had to do with Halloween up until the release of this movie. They got strong opinions about that podcast, but that's for later in a different discussion, you weenies. Uh-huh. But Gov, October 19th, we both go see the movie.
Yes.
First impressions.
Well, I can tell you going in, I was really skeptical. When story and concepts and the overall notion of we're going to wipe away all the sequels, we're going to be done with the continuity as we know it. And need I remind you, this series has so many branches of continuity. Like, if you are a complete novice or somebody who doesn't follow these movies and just know, okay, so there's a series of slasher films called Halloween with this dude in a Shatner mask, you are going to be so confused no matter where you start, just based on the fact that there's 3 movies simply called Halloween. And I got gripes about that as it is. But for my point, I'm going to say, how can you just wipe away all that continuity? It's already confusing. Do you go by the original Carpenter series? Do you go by the Mustafa Akkad series with the 4, 5, and 6? Do you go by the first time they rebooted with H2O? Do you go by the remake with Rob Zombie? Where do you go? And they're like, nowhere. You start from Carpenter to this one. That's all you needed to do. So already based on that, I was really raising an eyebrow at it. And then I saw the trailers. And I'm like, there's just something off about this movie. I don't think it's going to be the greatest thing that Halloween's done in 20 years, let alone 40. So I was walking in, hesitant, skeptical, whatever you want to call it. But what about you? How are you walking in?
I had a little bit more faith in you.
Yeah.
And what was coming out of Universal and Blumhouse. When they said, listen, when you watch this movie, the other sequels don't exist, including Halloween 2. Mm-hmm. And I took that to heart.
Yeah.
And I went in thinking that this is a direct sequel to the original movie, and I have to watch it like that. So, I mean, I kind of went in a little excited to see where they were going to go with it. Mm-hmm. I was able, and for those of you who listen to this podcast, this is my horror franchise. This is my favorite of all time. Mm-hmm. And to be able, for me, as big a fan as I am of Michael Myers and the Halloween series, in my head to completely wipe out everything that I had seen before, I was kind of impressed with myself, to say the least. But I was able to do it, and it made watching the movie that much more enjoyable.
Well, here's the thing, and I've said this repeatedly. They tell you to wipe away all sequels, forget everything you've seen except for the first movie, but not really. This movie, I feel, really leans on the fandom and the fact that the movies do exist. You can't just erase them from, the universe. They exist. You can go out right now and buy all the Halloween sequels and watch them. You can rent them. You can download them. So they do exist. So it's not like you can't say they don't exist. It's continuity's sake. But here's the thing. They were relying on you. I firmly believe this after watching the movie multiple times. They rely on you to keep that continuity in the back of your mind.
Well, of course you keep the continuity back in your mind. It's got a 40-year legacy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is they said, and they never said that they were erasing the other movies. They said that this movie is a direct sequel to the original. So if you're looking for a sequel to that series, to the entire series, the first one through the H2O, mm-hmm. you're not going to find it. Mm-hmm. And I took that to heart.
Right.
And I kept that in my head that, okay, the Halloween 2 in the hospital, The Night Continues, didn't happen. The Jamie Lloyd saga didn't happen.
Right.
H2O 20 years later
mm-hmm.
did not happen. And I kept that in my head. Now, yes, to your point, they play off the best kills in the rest of the series to homage the rest of the series in the movie.
Absolutely. For a movie that said that Halloween 2 didn't happen, there's so much Halloween 2 in this fucking movie. Well, so much.
Well, according to the storyline, it's Halloween 2.
So, well, yeah, but just thinking about it this way, John Carpenter worked so hard to erase all those sequels that he quote-unquote hates just for him to remake a sequel he quote-unquote hates.
But there was a lot similar, but there was a lot different too. I mean, I don't know.
It was like when Wes Carpenter did My Soul to Take. He pretty much made Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Wes Carpenter?
Yeah, that's him. Wes Craven.
Wes Carpenter.
These horror movie directors are just remaking crappy sequels they don't like.
Well,
why are they doing it? Well,
it wasn't a crappy movie. Neither was the original Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, it paid homage. That was another secret that they didn't keep secret. They did say that they were going to reference and pay homage to all the other sequels for the hardcores like us. Mm-hmm. I think this is where the hardcores get really pissed off. Because they see it from your perspective. Mm-hmm. That, so basically you took all the best kills and all the best parts of the sequels, and now you're calling it your own in this own movie.
Right.
I don't think that that's what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to give every fan, plus the generic fan, everything that they could want in one movie. Mm-hmm. We talk frequently. It's The Force Awakens of Halloween.
No, this truly is Halloween Awakens. That's what a lot of people like to call it on the internet and meme it and such. And that's fine. I get it. It's just I just have a hard time buying it. Like if you were going to wipe the slate clean, as they said they were going to do, why would you rely heavily on that nostalgia? Like so much. And we'll get more into it as we get into the actual plot details of the movies. And real quick, I am going to run down the plot. So spoiler alert, if you've been under a rock for a year, you might want to stop listening because I'm about to go over what happens in the movie. The movie starts with Michael Myers still incarcerated at Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Here we are introduced to his new doctor, not Samuel Loomis, but Dr. Zartan, who is obsessed with Michael Myers and more so is desperate to hear him talk. Now, this is the eve before Michael Myers is about to be transferred out of Smith's Grove into another psychiatric hospital. Always a good idea. There we meet a group of podcasters, true crime podcasters, who want to get the inside scoop of what Michael Myers did 40 years ago on that Halloween night in 1978, and they entice him by bringing out the mask, which gets everybody in the yard crazy and going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, except for Michael, who keeps his demeanor perfectly still.
Do you expect anything less?
Exactly. There we get an awesome opening credits sequence, very reminiscent to the original Halloween 1978, with cast and the characters who they're playing directly under them.
Now, can I say something about that intro?
Yeah.
Because the people on social media and all the sites, they criticize this for being a terrible CGI pumpkin that reinflates. People, it's not a CGI pumpkin.
Nope.
They did actual film making for this scene.
Yep.
They let a pumpkin rot and filmed it and then reversed the film. It's filmmaking 101.
Exactly.
And it was awesome.
Absolutely.
I don't give a fuck what you think.
Practicality always wins at the end of the day.
Gov, continue.
So now we are back in Haddonfield, where Laurie Strode, for some stupid-ass reason, still lives in this town. But now she is a complete recluse, living on the outskirts of town in this very barricaded, very defense-driven shack with, surveillance cameras and motion sensors and iron gates that can only be opened through a code. And we get the podcasters going up to her, offering her $3,000 for her story, which she accepts the $3,000 and pretty much just sits there and lets them talk, which was really funny. And also a good way to reintroduce Jamie Lee Curtis, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean,
for this version
for this
Laurie
version,
Strode,
yeah.
which I'll get into later about my qualms with that, but this is what's happening. So after that, we get introduced to Laurie's estranged family. Her daughter Karen, played by Judy Greer. Her husband, who's the worst thing in this fucking movie. He's trying to be funny, but he's clearly not. And the new quote-unquote Halloween girl, being Laurie's granddaughter, Allison. So we get to see what their life is like. Allison's life is very similar to Laurie's, where she's got a small group of friends. It's Halloween. They're going to high school, yada, yada, yada. And then we get the ultimate moment that we all know is coming. Michael Myers escapes while being transferred. Where have we seen this before? That's right, in a movie we're supposed to forget about, Halloween 4. And
hey, he was going to a different prison via bus. He wasn't in comatose because of a fire that happened, 5 years prior? 10 years prior? Yeah, I mean...
Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Don't worry.
Give it a break.
I'm not going to. Not about to. So after this, Michael Myers escapes. Zartan survived the wreck. He gets involved with the police. It's very paint by numbers. Michael Myers has escaped. They got to find him before he wreaks his terror among the small town of Haddonfield. There, we see the podcasters who are filling up at a gas station. Michael Myers comes in, gets his coveralls, kills the podcasters, gets his mask back, and the shape has returned. Halloween night, he picks up right where he left off, his war against Haddonfield, where he is literally going to house to house to house, literally slashing and gashing. It's all carnage. Now, by this point, Laurie has learned that Michael has escaped, and she has to get prepared. She has to protect her family. She tries to get her daughter and granddaughter to go with them. They won't. The granddaughter's busy at a Halloween dance at school, and Judy Greer just doesn't believe him because the world is full of love and understanding. Meanwhile, Michael Myers attacks Allison on her way home from the dance, and a chase ensues, and the local sheriff picks up Zartane and Michaels, but Zartane, twist, kills the sheriff for some stupid reason we'll get into later. And then Allison is running. She makes her way to her grandmother's house where everyone's taking refuge. And the final war between Michael and Laurie ensues. The end. For now.
All right.
That'll do it. Thank you very much, Ray.
Okay, Gov. So, a lot to process, a lot to critique. Where are we starting?
Well, let's start with one. that first scene, the opening scene that's going to set the tone for the movie.
The podcasters.
I'm not.
By the way, the guy is not related in any shape or form to Dr. Loomis.
Yes, there is an entire country of British people who have British accents. They are all not related.
Moving on.
So, yeah, here we're getting, they have a lot of homework in this scene. You're reestablishing this world, this universe, right. this Halloween lore, and one of the bigger proponents of it being Smith's Grove Sanitarium, which I thought it was kind of funny how it seemed like Smith's Grove did not age. I mean, they fucking still use a record player to play music to soothe the patients. I don't know, just a small, and the friggin' 40, 30-year-old surveillance cameras that they're still using. So Smith's Grove's kind of like the place that time forgot. So yeah, you get this this strange opening that's visually interesting with the whole checkerboard playground, and they entice Michael with the mask. I thought it was a good scene.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought it was a solid, strong opening. And you can suspend your disbelief a little bit because I know a lot of people are like, how the hell did he get that mask? Who cares?
Well, here's the thing. We're talking a horror movie. It's a fantastic world. You're supposed to suspend disbelief.
Right.
It just is what it is. You can't take these things so seriously. I thought the podcasters are good. I thought they did their characters did a really good job reintroducing us to Michael Myers, introducing to Zartan. Despite our feelings about Zartan as this movie plays out.
Oh, I'll get into Zartan. Don't worry.
And reintroducing us to Laurie Strode. They quickly gave us a backstory of what's happened between the last 40 years for both characters, and brought them to the now. I will say I do like how that's how they decided to reintroduce these characters after 40 years, quote unquote, by having these true crime podcasters interview them. Sure.
So it's almost like they're introducing them to us again.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. First they go to Michael, and then they go to Laurie. So I thought that was well done. I thought that was fine.
Absolutely.
So with Laurie Strode, let's talk about Laurie Strode, because this is probably going to be a long conversation. It's been 40 years, and mind you, in terms of this movie and what they want us to believe, none of the sequels have happened.
Okay.
And she is so damaged by this one thing that she's gone full Sarah Connor Terminator 2 on us. Locking away guns, creating a fallout shelter, all this traps and weird booby traps. And it's crazy that somebody would go to this length because of one psychopath who went after her 40 years ago, only killed 5 people. And you know what? I will give the film credit. It does make a reference with one of the characters. One of the young teenage characters said, in today's standards, that's not a big deal kind of thing.
I disagree because if you're putting it in reality, you don't know how a tragedy like that is going to affect someone. They could be fine the next day. It could be years before it really affects them, or it could be like a Laurie Strode case where she becomes obsessive compulsive about it. Let's not forget the original movie. Yeah, it was only 5 victims, but she thought she killed this guy 3 times and he kept coming after her.
Okay,
You know?
that's solid. And you know what? I'm not going to pretend to relate and stuff like that. Fortunately, I've never been attacked by a serial killer, nor do I know anyone who's been killed by a serial killer. Knock on wood. But it does seem a little extreme. And I've said this since I saw the movie. To me, it seems like even though the filmmakers are saying forget all sequels, I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis is. I feel like in the back of her mind, at least in terms of how she can do her performance, I think she's thinking that Halloween 2 and H2O happened for her character.
Okay. I mean, maybe. She still gave a dynamite performance.
No, sure. No, I'm not criticizing her performance. Her performance was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It was great. And like I started making the observation that it's like whenever Halloween's in trouble, all I got to do is call Jamie Lee Curtis and
sure.
gets them right back on track.
Sure. Again, this is, it's kind of trying to blend what we could perceive as real life to fictional storytelling. Mm-hmm. Again, when you think about it realistically, any sort of tragedy, you don't know how you're going to. Everybody's different.
Everyone reacts different.
Everybody reacts differently.
Sure.
So in this world, in this reality of this fictional story, this is how Laurie Strode reacted. She, becomes recluse,
agoraphobic.
And then again, thinking about it in context of the first movie, yeah, he only killed 5 people, but she thought she killed him 3 times.
That's a good point.
And he kept coming back.
That's a good point. And he's still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
And but again, just like these just smaller details. Again, I'm not trying to analyze her, mental health or anything. But why would you stay in Haddonfield? I mean, I think they got it right with H2O, where she moved to the other end of the country. You know what I mean? And yet he still found her.
Right. I mean, I think that's just it's a nitpicking detail that it is what it is. She's still.
Well, that's my job.
Yeah,
that's my job on
that.
That
is your job, and you're good at it. But
so let's talk about the other characters. What'd you think of Michael Myers in this movie, Ace?
I loved him.
Yeah,
I honestly, I thought he was the best Michael Myers since the original.
He was really good, and in this film,
a close second him would be the Michael in H2O. Unfortunately, not to knock Dick Durock or Warlock. Yes, excuse me. He's a fantastic stuntman.
Yeah.
He's
done a lot of shit.
He's done a lot of shit,
yeah.
And a lot of stuff that most people don't realize that are iconic. Mm-hmm. With that said, he's put on a pedestal for Halloween 2. I did not like how he played Michael Myers in Halloween 2.
Is he put on a pedestal?
A lot of the hardcore fans really love Dick Warlock.
I've heard he's gotten a lot of criticism because of the robotic nature to his performance.
Maybe more recently, but I know when I first really got into the series and got on all the fan sites, they championed him.
Yeah.
And I hated Michael Myers in Halloween 2.
Yeah. I mean, there is some great Michael Myers out there. Nick Castle gets the award for being the original.
Sure.
Dick Warlock, has his supporters, but also has his, criticizers. Yeah. And got to give a shout out to George P. Wilbur, even though 4 and 6 were,
but again,
he was a very aggressive Michael.
He was an aggressive Michael, but not in 4. In 4, they went back to he was still robotic. I mean, granted, they put shoulder pads underneath.
I was about to say the hockey pads was not a good call, but I thought his performance was fine.
I don't know. Maybe because I don't like the mask in 4, it took away.
I would love to give a better review to Don Shanks, who was Michael in Part 5, but man, that mask just takes away from you, dude.
Mask takes
Sorry.
away from. And you know what? credit where credit's due. I didn't mind the Michael Myers in Resurrection.
Brad Lorre, I thought he was good Mike Myers.
I mean, and that's probably the only good thing you can say about that movie is him.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of the fanboys criticize the eyebrows on the mask.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the sculpt of that mask was incredible because at certain lighting it looked so evil and menacing. Mm-hmm. It was scary. But yeah, no. If you want me to, rank this Michael Myers, part of it is Nick Castle in the movie.
I was about to say, in this film, Michael Myers, through majority, is played by stuntman James Jude Courtney, who is a 62-year-old stuntman. So they casted of age for Michael in this film, which was great, and he did such a good job.
Well, you could tell that because Nick Castle does have a few scenes as Michael in the movie.
A few glorious scenes.
You could you really tell that he was coached and studied Nick's moves.
Sure.
And it plays on screen.
Yeah. I don't know if he did multiple scenes. I definitely know of the one. Everyone talks about the one where he's the Michael in the window and he does the famous head tilt to Jamie Lee Curtis Laurie. And it was such a glorious shot.
Sure.
And now we hear with Halloween Kills, he's going to have a little bit more to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So going back to Michael in this movie, here was something really interesting. So prior to him getting the mask back, you really kind of get that this is a 61, 62-year-old Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. Because you see him without the mask, kind of, even though his face is mostly blurred. That still older guy presence. Mm-hmm. But as soon as he puts the mask on, he becomes ageless.
Yeah.
I mean, did you get that feeling? It was like before he got the mask, it wasn't really Michael Myers.
Right.
Even though you knew it was Michael Myers. As soon as he put the mask on, he becomes ageless, and he's that boogeyman. He's the shape again. And you almost completely forget that he's supposed to be 61 years old.
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't know if I felt like it wasn't Michael Myers. I just felt like it's not how I'm used to seeing him. He's still just as brutal. I mean, the first few murders that he does before he gets the mask back are brutal.
Intense.
They are absolutely intense.
And that's what I loved about this Michael Myers. I love the intensity.
Yeah.
Other sequels, I mean, what made him scary in other sequels was that he's lurking around in the background. Uh-huh. When it came to the kills, not really much. Not only did it bring him back to being scary because of that shadow lurking, and you never knew where he was, but you knew he was there.
Yeah.
When he got you, he was fucking an animal.
He was still intense. It was just not how you're used to seeing him. When he gets the mask on, as you pointed out, ageless, it's because of that mask. It's featureless.
Right.
So it's like clean, blank face,
Yeah, but I guess what my point is that it seems like his whole presence changes. The whole, aura around him changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the mask it's faceless, and that's what they wanted way back in the original. They wanted an emotionless face, but it's. I don't know. The aura around Michael changes as soon as the mask goes on.
I mean, that could be deliberate. Maybe it's like that's now he's complete, so to speak. You know what I mean? And then to talk a little bit about the brutality of Michael Myers, I do like it. I don't think it matches the original, though, because he was not that brutal. I mean, he barely did anything to anybody in the original one.
Well, I mean...
In this one, he's busting jaws and stomping heads and...
Well, I mean, let's look at it in context of the time.
Well, sure, you got to raise your stakes. It's 2000,
I mean,
18.
In 1978... What you saw in Halloween, you never saw before, really. I mean, you had Psycho out, Black Christmas was out, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was out, but you never really saw, the slasher stereotype. Mm-hmm. The blueprint wasn't made yet. Yeah. Halloween made the slasher blueprint, so you never saw anything like that. So you could get away with, less subtle, very subtle kills. It was still scary.
Yeah.
Jump 40 years because of the original Halloween, and the rip-offs, the knockoffs, the other franchises, the other successful franchises. We've seen everything.
Right.
We have seen everything. So they had to give Michael something.
Yeah.
To make him scary, because my biggest praise of this movie is that they made Michael Myers scary again.
Yes, you've said that multiple times.
I have. Mm-hmm. I privately, and I'm sure I'm not even keeping track. I'm sure I've said it a couple times.
You've said it on the show.
On
sure.
the show.
Yeah.
They made him scary again. Again, I know I just said this a few minutes ago. Like the original, you would know he was there, but you had no idea where he was or where he was coming from. Mm-hmm. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And then you add that on top of him being a little bit more brutal than he was in the original. Mm-hmm. The guy's scary.
No, yeah, I'll give you that. He was definitely an intense figure, a force to be reckoned with, which is what Michael's supposed to be. Absolutely. Hands down, the best thing about this movie is that one long take, glorious shot.
Oh my God!
Of him going from house to house in Haddonfield.
I know.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful, and I absolutely despise the fact that they put it in the fucking trailers.
Yes,
and spoiled it for everyone.
Yeah, But
the fuck are you doing, Universal?
That's just Universal not being confident in their product.
Yeah.
Because they knew that was a powerful scene, so they show it to get butts in the seat. But,
I think that would have happened anyway, but...
Sure. But, hey, listen, back to the scene itself. I mean, the randomness of his attack. I mean, he legit assault on Haddonfield.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Which the filmmakers said early on that in terms of Michael Myers, his victim is Haddonfield. It's not a specific person. And that's what they wanted to go back to in the original. Because in the original, he didn't really target Laurie at all.
She just...
Laurie was the main girl. And if you really think about it, he did not leave the first house. She came to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he just...
The Wallace house.
He saw her, and she became a target.
Exactly.
Had nothing to do with sibling rivalry or whatever.
If anything, you could say he was more fixated on Annie... Because she was the one who screamed at him in the car, and then she's the one he follows.
Yeah.
And it's her house that she's babysitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then Laurie again shows up at the house, and
same thing with Linda and Bob. They just show up at the Wallace house.
Yeah. So, I liked taking the sister element out of it,
which I can only assume is the single reason why they chose to ignore part 2.
Yeah,
because I've heard David Gordon Green say, like, we tried so hard to keep 2 because it is in continuity the same night.
Sure.
And they tried so hard, but they just couldn't overlook the sister thing. They just didn't want to do it anymore, so they had to throw that into the fire as well.
Well, and you know what? The Michael Myers character needed it. I think so. Again, to make him scary again, to make him, that shape.
Yeah.
Make him the shape again.
Yeah.
You needed to eliminate the brother sister aspect, because look, even
but you could retcon that. You could have been like that was a false file or something like that. That could have been done with a line of dialogue.
I mean, sure, but listen,
But speaking about the relationship between Laurie and Michael, because obviously that's the linchpin of this movie as well as all the other ones that they're involved in. Did you get the sense that between Laurie's character and even Dr. Zartan's character and somewhat of the sheriff played by Will Patton, who did a great job in this movie, they're so fixated on this. Like, why did Michael come back? Oh, he's come back to find Laurie. And Laurie's like, yeah, he's come back to me. I've been waiting for this day for a long time so I can kill him and stuff like that. And they're so fixated on it. And that's their character. And that's their character art. Did you get the sense that Michael didn't care?
No, he didn't. He really didn't give a shit. And I think, again, that's a bonus to the Michael Myers character. Mm-hmm. The guy is just, he wants to kill everything in sight.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about Laurie. If Zartan didn't bring him to Laurie for the finale,
yeah,
there wouldn't have been the finale with Laurie Strode. You know?
Yeah.
He brings him to her.
Right.
And, you know, Michael Myers like, game on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, he follows Allison to Laurie's house.
Yeah.
You know, again, it was just a little weird. You know what, Psycho Nation, if you don't already know, this movie was heavily reshot. I guess they had a version of this movie, and they screened it, and it just didn't go well. The more famous anecdote to that is the completely different alternative ending.
Right.
But we'll get into that in a minute. You can tell this movie was hastily rewritten and reshot. So what I guess I'm saying is when they're talking about, oh, Michael came back for Laurie, it's so heavy with those central characters, and then it turns out that Michael doesn't care. I feel like you're looking at products of maybe two different scripts.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I think it worked out for the better.
Sure. I mean, it did work out in the end.
I mean, I think it, you know, keeping Michael random, you know, in his pursuit to do whatever, is the best way to go.
Yeah.
It really is. And making everybody else obsess over him, you know, until they meet the inevitable is a good twist.
Yeah.
You know.
So let's talk about some of the other characters. I don't want to get into too many of them because a lot of them are really just, you know, stock horror movie characters. I don't really care to talk about
kill characters.
Yeah, I don't really care to talk about Laurie's granddaughter, who's just, you know, the new.
She did a great job.
She did good, but you know, she's really there just to be the, you know, a flag bearer for her character. You know, like the new version. And her idiot high school friends. Though I do want to talk about the boyfriend for a brief second by saying, like, okay, so we set up this dude. It's the boyfriend of Allison. I think his name's Cameron in the film. He's a jerk boyfriend because he doesn't want to meet her parents. Strike one. He's a douchebag bro who thinks it's funny to gender bend Bonnie and Clyde. Strike two. And then he's a drunken asshole who makes out with the mascot for the Bayside Tigers and throws her phone into, I don't know, it was like punch or guacamole or something like that. And then we never see him again. Where is his kill?
It's in Halloween Kills.
It better be. Holy shit, you set up this hateful character that we're just waiting to die, and he's just standing there at the party. Oh, I fucked up. You know, what the fuck? Drop the ball.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely the character that you want to see die. Because there's one in every horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I did want to see the father die. I did want to see the Keystone Cops die. I did want to see Zartan die. But, you know, he's the one that you really wanted to see die. And
you didn't get it.
Hopefully he gets his in the sequel.
Zartan.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Zartan now?
All right. Let me speak my piece about Zartan because I know you're about to
I'm revving
launch.
Up. Yeah. Revving up.
I understood why he was an important character. I understood why his character was necessary. Because basically, you know, when you cut away the bullshit, he's the guy that brings Michael back to Laurie. And that's really his only purpose. I hated the fact that he put Michael Myers' mask on.
Sacrilege.
I mean, that was just such a stupid scene. When he, I mean, it was an interesting twist that he killed the cop. You know, again, you know, it was an interesting twist that he killed the cop because, as we were just saying before, you know, everybody's obsessed with Michael except Michael.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
he has no ego about him.
So I mean that, you know, it was an interesting twist and it worked. Him putting the mask on and pretending to be Michael was stupid. Shouldn't have been in. His demise, I loved. Because when Allison is sitting in the back of the cop car and he's driving, and the mask is sitting between them, and she puts her hand down. Now the mask is gone, and Michael is staring at her. I thought that was terrifying. I thought that scene was terrifying. And then, Michael, does what everybody's waiting for. He kills Zartan. Mm-hmm. So,
sure does.
I know you want to rip into him. I'm going to let you. My piece is I understood his character. It was important because he literally is the link to bring Michael to Laurie for our finale and the showdown. Gov, take it away.
Hands down, the worst thing about this fucking movie. The worst character, the stupidest ending, the stupidest arc, the stupidest motivations. He is mind-bogglingly dumb and ridiculous, and I don't understand what they were going for. You're saying he was essential to getting Michael to Laurie, but why? You said yourself, he's just randomizing victims at this point. Couldn't he have just followed Allison to Laurie like he ended up, doing?
But he wasn't doing that. Zartan brought them together and brought them to Laurie's house.
Michael saw her at the Elrod's house. Another note for H2 fans, Halloween 2 fans.
Yes.
He saw her at the Elrod's house and then followed her, and then she got picked up by the neighbor. That's where they got disconnected. Why couldn't he just follow her straight to the grandmother's house? That's because they had to give us this payoff of this setup character with Zartan and the cop. So anyway, you got this guy who is referred to in the movie as the quote-unquote new Loomis. By the way, why are we vilifying Dr. Loomis? He was the hero in the first movie, and everyone seems to hate him in this one. First of all,
maybe he was an asshole after, but I don't know.
Well, first of all, when Laurie Strode says that, she says that so disparagingly. Oh, you're the new Loomis. And then also, you get this audio recording of Dr. Sam Loomis a year after Michael was apprehended, and he's just off his rocker bananas, and he's like ranting and raving. It's almost like he became a patient himself in Smith's Grove and stuff like that, saying how we need to kill Michael Myers and incinerate the body and piss on the ashes and whatever. And then also you learn that his protege, this Zartan guy, is batshit insane. I'm like, they really give no kudos to Dr. Loomis in this movie, especially Laurie Strode, and he's the guy, who saved her life. So back to Zartan, you got this guy who's maniacally obsessive over Michael Myers, and all he wants to do is hear him talk. Big fucking deal. The dude decides not to talk. And he's so obsessed over it that he's, one, sets up the bus crash. He set that up. Mm-hmm. Two, insists that the sheriff doesn't kill Michael Myers as soon as he sees him. And, of course, the sheriff's like, go fuck yourself. The first chance I get, I'm blowing his fucking head off. Rightfully so. And then when Zartan and Allison and the sheriff are in the cop car together, they hit Michael Myers. Michael goes down, and the sheriff gets out of the car to finish the job. And then all of a sudden, Zartan whips out this switchblade scalpel. Why the fuck he has this thing, I'll never know. And he kills the cop. And then this is where you get that scene that you described where he puts on the mask. And by the way, he drags this 6'2", 6'4", however tall he is, 200, 300-pound Goliath man that is Michael Myers with one arm because Zartan was shot in the shoulder earlier in the film. Very impressive to drag him and stick him in the back of the car while wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. And then he drives off and he's ranting and raving about this glorious reunion between Michael and Laurie, which, as you put it, Michael could care less about. And Allison, who's still in the car and is freaking out, outsmarts this veteran psychiatrist who has multiple PhDs by saying to him, hold on, let me finish to him. You want to hear him speak? He spoke to me. He's like, he did? What did he say? He said one word, pull over and I'll tell you what he said. And he does it.
All right. As far as him being smart with the PhDs and all that. Clearly, he's gone batshit crazy and obsessive, about hearing Michael speak. So, give that a break. He's gone insane.
You know what?
He just killed a cop.
You know what?
With a scalpel.
A switchblade scalpel that he had.
Well,
because those are practical for psychiatrists to have.
All in the name of seeing Michael with Laurie again. He's gone batshit crazy, so he's not in his right state of mind.
You know what? Granted, but it just seemed really easy for this hysterical 17-year-old to outsmart this decorated psychiatrist.
Well, she's an honor student. Goddammit.
Oh, it must be. Holy shit. So he does it, and then I'll give you this. That shot was great with the mask and Michael's staring at Allison. That was a really creepy shot. The lighting was beautiful at it, and then he looks back, and Zartan can see him in the rear view.
Yeah.
Great shot. So Michael escapes the car, and and this is the end of this great character in Zartan. He squashes his head like a fucking grape, which is hands down the most ridiculous death in this movie.
Well, like I said, they pay homage to
everyone.
Every movie. That was Rob Zombie's homage.
That was very Rob Zombie. I can't fathom the buffoonery of this character. He is the worst thing. You talk about movies where it's like you're going along, you're driving along, and all of a sudden it hits a brick wall. Zartan is this brick wall. Mm-hmm. Holy fuck.
Take your pills. Take a breath.
I hate this character so much.
He's not a good character.
No.
But in context of the movie that we're watching, not in context of what, may have been filmed before, before the reshoots, he's a necessary part to get these two back together.
But again, like the character of Allison, who's the flag bearer for Laurie, for teenage Laurie, he's the flag bearer for Loomis. And this is how we treat him?
Is he the flag bearer for Loomis, though?
That's how he's perceived and how he's...
I didn't perceive that.
But you know what? And when we're talking about homages to the other sequels, there's definitely one in him. He's definitely the homage to Halloween 6 with Dr. Wynn.
Yes.
The guy who's obsessed with Michael and goes to crazy lengths. I'll give you that.
I draw him more to Dr. Wynn than Loomis.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as far as Laurie's, comment about Loomis, I mean, it's 40 years. Maybe he did her wrong at some point during, legal proceedings or something like that. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a whole nother world we can get into, post the original movie. Mm-hmm. Again, granted that none of the other sequels happened. Mm-hmm. We got 40 years of, who knows what.
Yeah.
In between. So I mean, I don't think they shit on Loomis too bad. But the reality is you can't bring him back.
No,
so
but I feel like they could respect the character a little bit more. Granted, you're wiping away the sequels supposedly, and so you don't have that legacy of like he's Van Helsing to Michael's Dracula. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't have that cat and mouse thing. It was just the one night, and he got lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. But still, I feel like you could have respected him a little bit better as a character.
Sure.
I feel like, and I also tie that back to what Rob Zombie did to the character. Made him a hateable character. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, in the second movie.
Yeah, but even still, he was still pretty arrogant in the first one and, kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Well, Malcolm McDowell was the only good thing about that movie. And I told him that in person at Scaricon.
I agree.
Last year.
So the other characters, as I said before, they're pretty much just fodder. They're there to be your typical horror movie tropes. You got the hot chick who dies. You got the stoner who dies. You got the goofy fat best friend that nobody likes. He's kind of, ever since Shelley from Friday the 13th Part 3, that's been very popular trope. And the one thing I do want to say about his death, did you know, Ace, that you don't have to have any profound knowledge on motion lights because they are motion detectors? Meaning, if you move, those lights will go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You don't have to have any pre-knowledge of this. You don't have to read a manual. You don't know how to have to know how they set up. You literally move, the motion sensor detects that you moved, and then the lights go on.
But he was locked up for 40 years. How the fuck does he know about motion sensors?
I know, but that's the thing. He didn't have to. All he had to do is move, and then that motion detected, and the lights came on.
Yeah. Well, people, if you don't know what we're referencing a review of the movie, and this scene, they gave a particular review of this scene. They were so, I mean, I'm not going to say dumb because I don't want to call anybody dumb.
I will.
But holy crap. I mean, to make the argument that this scene sucked because Michael was locked in a penitentiary for 40 years and he has no idea what motion, the concept of motion sensor is probably the dumbest argument as to why this movie sucks.
And the simple answer is he doesn't have to. He just has to move and the lights do the work. That's why the scene is the way it is. You fucking morons. You know who you are.
It was a killer scene. Mm-hmm. It really was. It was a killer scene.
All right, so let's move along and let's talk about those real quick, those wonderful homages to all the frickin' sequels that are so prominent in this movie. These movies that we are supposed to forget ever happened are all over this fucking thing. And you can't deny that they aren't. I mean,
they didn't, but here's the thing. You say that condescendingly, but they never said that they weren't. They came out and said that there's going to be homages to every single movie that came before it.
Yeah, but these are some pretty heavy homages. You know what I mean?
So,
I mean, like I said, Halloween 2 is all over this frickin' movie. You got the murder of the old woman in the pink robe slicing ham. Straight out of Halloween 2. You got, as the scene we just mentioned, the backyard of the Elrod's house. Yeah. You got the ending where they incinerate them. You know what I mean? Which we can get into briefly about how that's not the original ending.
No, that's it. I mean, we'll get into the ending after this, but back to homages.
Okay, so part 3. You got the Silver Shamrock masks.
That was awesome.
That was fine. I was
awesome.
Totally fine with that. See, but now we're getting into the territory of where they're straight up ripping scenes from these sequels, and because we're supposed to forget about them, it's okay that they use them. He gets his coveralls by killing a mechanic. Part 4. He kills the podcast.
Well, he did that in the first movie. He killed a truck driver mechanic.
Yeah, but this one was directly part 4. You got to admit, because it was done in the same exact fashion.
Yeah.
The only difference is Loomis wasn't there to shoot a mirror, but don't worry, Laurie does that later. Then the best, and then also with part 4, the escape.
Right.
He escapes while being transferred. Now, as you said earlier in the podcast, well, he wasn't comatose and wasn't an ambulance. No, he was a prisoner being transferred by bus. Same thing. Same thing. You change, red to blue, it's still the same thing. Part 5 probably had the best homage. I was like, what could they bring over from part 5? I know, the fucking buffoon Keystone Cops.
Which, to be fair, they weren't as stupid as the cops in the part 5.
No,
knew what they were going after.
They didn't have the cartoon sound effects to enhance their performance.
Right.
And then part 6, clearly this was Zartan. He is a trope for Dr. Wynn. H2O, the podcasters get it in the the restroom.
Yep.
So straight out of H2O. Even though that mother and child didn't die, it was shot so similarly and same style. And then you can argue that this is more or less a remake of H2O. It's more or less a remake of Halloween 2 and H2O. Resurrection, I had a hard time with Resurrection, trying to find the tropes in that one. I think they kind of steer clear with Resurrection. Could you think of anything?
Trying to think.
The only thing I could come up with is the idea of glorifying tragedy. These podcasters are obviously trying to make a buck, out of exploiting this tragedy that befell this small town.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Similar to Busta Rhymes.
Similar, yeah.
And then some of the more gruesome deaths are straight out of Rob Zombie's movies.
Right.
So they got all of them.
Which I mean, again, I know it pisses off some. I don't mind it.
One more about Halloween 6 that I just remembered is they make a joke in this movie about the impact that Michael has, and a character says, "What are they going to do? Cancel Halloween?" Which is what they did in Halloween 6.
Right, they cancel it. Yeah. So the finale.
The finale.
Let's get into the finale.
Yep. So by this point in the movie, Michael has found Laurie. He's found her house, her recluse house in the woods, and he's attacking. He's breaking in, and they're trying to fend him off. She's got the fallout shelter with the false kitchen counter opening, and she's got the entire place rigged to go on total lockdown mode. The one thing that really I didn't like about this finale is it takes fucking forever, especially when Laurie is searching the house for him and locking all the doors and stuff. That scene just drags and drags and drags.
You thought so? See,
I really do.
See, I thought,
I get the point after 4 or 5, door drops with the steel cages.
Watching it over, I can kind of get that. Watching for the second and third time.
Yeah.
When I watched it the first time in the theater, that was suspenseful. I didn't think that was long at all. That I was on the edge of my seat that entire scene.
I will say this: at the end of the scene, it provided the one jump scare that got me. Jump scares don't really get me. This one got me when she makes it to the final bedroom with the balcony, and she's convinced he's in the closet, and then once he's not, she thinks he's on the right side with all the mannequins, and he's on the left side, and he comes out, and that got me.
Yeah. Fun fact about that room, that is an exact replica of the room in the final scene of the original movie. Mm-hmm. Because originally they had reshot the ending to the original movie where you see Michael Myers live.
Yeah.
And get caught by the cops in Loomis.
Which I'm kind of glad, now that you brought it up, I'm kind of glad they didn't do that.
Well, it was John Carpenter, he put a squash to it.
Yeah.
He didn't want anything remade of his.
It's a good call.
Very good call. But if you look carefully, it's an exact replica.
Yeah.
They already had the set built.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I argued that the entire house is kind of a replica of the Doyle house.
Yeah.
Even where the layout of the stairs are and stuff like that.
How did you feel about the role reversal? Laurie being thrown off the balcony, and her disappearing,
and then she gets the fade in light and stuff like that. I loved it.
Me too.
I that gave me chills and stuff like that. And they preface it in the school scene much earlier in the film, where Allison looks out the window and you hear a familiar voice of P.J. Souls reading the same Fate poem. And she looks out the window, and whereas in 1978 Laurie saw Michael, Allison sees her grandmother, Laurie, standing in the same exact spot. Loved it. Loved it.
Very cool.
Yes.
So obviously, fight happens. They trap him in the basement.
Yep.
Laurie sets the house on fire, and that's the finale. The 3 women escape.
Yep. Driving in a pickup truck on their way to the sequel.
Yes. I thought the finale was good. It definitely left it. I mean, you saw the finale, you knew the sequel was coming because Michael disappears in the fire.
Right.
It's not like the second one where you see him engulfed in flames and he's walking around. You see him 1 second, and it cuts to Laurie and the other 2 girls, cuts back, and he's disappeared.
Right.
So you knew the sequel was coming.
I mean, but I guess that's where the criticism is like, again, for a movie that is trying to be its own thing, set itself apart from the sequels, and be a direct sequel to the original. They borrow so much from all these sequels, especially Halloween 2. And a lot of fans cried foul on that ending because he goes the same way he went in Halloween 2. Whether you saw his incinerated body or not, it's the same deal. He gets incinerated by fire.
Yeah.
But do you want to talk about, was was supposed to happen.
Well, apparently in the original ending, Michael follows Laurie or the girls. I'm not sure who, but he follows them out into that shooting range that Laurie has with all the mannequins.
Yeah.
And basically the three women gang up and attack Michael.
Right.
And kill him. They stab him to death. They beat him to death. And then they escape. And post-credit scene, it's either the final scene or a post-credit scene, we see Michael sit up.
Yeah.
And that hints at the sequel.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. Would you have rather seen that ending?
Well, apparently it tested bad, and that's why they went back and reshot the ending the way they did. It tested bad. I think it wasn't a fulfilling ending to just see Michael, I guess, what does he get stabbed, did you say?
Yeah, I guess they gang up on him.
They gang up on him.
They beat him. They stab him.
They just destroy his body by stabbing him and stuff like that. And they said that the final shot before the sit-up shot was just him bleeding out against a tree.
Yeah.
And it was very kind of bittersweet ending where I guess they want more of a triumphant demise of the killer. But with that being said, their triumphant demise is just borrowing from another movie. You know what I mean? So and I'm sure they were against The Wire. I'm sure with the multiple rewrites and the multiple reshoots, and now to tack on a brand new ending, I'm sure it was stressful.
Right.
So they're like, okay, let's do a little bit of a payoff to say, like, you know, this whole time we've been saying that Laurie's in a cage, she's reclused herself, she's in this cage. Oh, it's not a cage, it's a trap. To say that she's always been prepared for him.
Right.
Kind of thing. I'll buy it. I'll take it.
Again, I don't. People are pissed off because they say it rips off Halloween. I don't think it rips. I mean, if you really want to think about it.
But then the filmmakers get to say, Halloween 2 didn't happen, but it did. You know what I mean?
Because this is technically Halloween 2. This movie. Again, I was able to separate myself from all the other movies and watch it.
I had a hard time.
Like I said in the beginning. So all the stuff that made reference to the other movies and kind of played out like it didn't bother me. It really didn't. The movie was fun to watch. Michael was scary. Again, that was the important thing. That was if there was anything that I was most concerned of, I just wanted Michael Myers to be scary again.
Right.
And they did that.
So one last topic before we get into final thoughts. I said earlier that this is practically a remake of Halloween H2O in many ways, as it is with Halloween 2. In terms of rebooting and bringing original stars back, what movie do you think did it better, this or H2O?
Boy. What movie do I think did it better?
Yeah. Because essentially they are the same movie. It's saying wipe away the sequels. Here's the direct follow-up, continuation of Laurie Strode. I mean, you even have the kids aspect to it.
Yeah, I know.
She's a messed up mother.
I know. Man, that's tough because because there's things I enjoy about both. Yeah, I really do like H2O. I think it's cool that they took it out of Haddonfield. I can't call who did it better. They're both different movies.
Yeah,
they were both different stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's fair to say which is better. Mm-hmm. I think Michael was scarier in 2018.
Okay.
Way scarier and way more effective than H2O.
Mm-hmm.
But to say who did it, they're two. To me, they are what they are.
I will give an opinion on it. As everyone who's listened to the show, I'm a story guy. Like I love getting involved in the stories and characters and things that make sense and get aggravated when they don't. With that being said, I feel like H2O did this story better. I bought it a lot more to see Laurie 20 years later. She's removed herself from Haddonfield. She's removed herself from her old life. She's changed her name. She set up a new life. elsewhere. I believe it's in California in H2O. She raised a son, and she's a headmistress at a posh private school. But she is still very much tormented. She has a lot of baggage, a lot of issues, but they're all mental. They're all suppressed. She sees him in windows, and she's taking medication, and she's a drunk. Granted, she's a drunk in this movie too, but she's not wielding shotguns and creating house of horrors to trap psychotic killers. It makes a lot more sense. She seems much more like a trauma victim in H2O than she does in this movie. This movie, she seems like a trauma victim, yes, but also turns out to be a heroine, like a Sarah Connor.
Right.
I felt, and the homages in that one were there in H2O, but they were a lot more subtle.
Right.
And I'm not saying that H2O is a better movie, but I am saying that I think it handled the progression of Laurie Strode's character a lot better.
Cool.
But that's just the gov.
I can't argue with that. But so moving on from there, as we all know, they got greenlit for a sequel, and not only one sequel but two, which they're filming simultaneously. That's going to be Halloween Kills is going to be released next year, and then the following year, Halloween Ends.
Gee, I wonder if that'll be the final film.
Hey, well, it'll definitely be the end of the Laurie Strode storyline. I think that.
Yep. And real quick, just a kind of a little update on Halloween Kills. They are going gangbusters on this one with bringing back even more original characters from the original movie. Not only do we got the return of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode and all the other characters that were set up in this movie, her daughter and her granddaughter, but we are going to see the return of Kyle Richards as Lindsay Wallace. We are going to see Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle. He's not the original Tommy Doyle.
Nope.
He's not even Paul Rudd.
Nope.
But he is going to be here as the character of Tommy Doyle will be in this movie. Charles Cyphers is coming back as Lee Brackett.
That's awesome.
Sheriff Brackett.
That's fantastic.
Coming back to this movie. Nancy Stevens is Marion Chambers.
Awesome.
We all know from the original who's driving Loomis around when they see that the patients escaped. She's
first
also
victim of H2O. Third victim of H2O.
Sorry. Yeah. He killed Joseph Gordon-Levitt first. But she's also in the second one, and it's shaping up to be a phenomenal movie.
One could hope. Pictures released. They're at the hospital.
Yep. So this is even more so a remake show of Halloween 2.
Listen.
What are you doing, guys?
Listen, make whatever you want as long as it's good is the way I kind of, let it be good.
Yeah.
If it's good, all the, stealing from the other sequels and, remaking certain parts from the other sequels, I can handle that.
Yeah.
If it's good. If it sucks, then you're in trouble. But, like this movie, yeah, there's a lot, like Halloween 2018, there is a lot of references and a lot of redone scenes from the sequels that, a lot of people take issues with. But the movie overall was good. Mm-hmm. It was a good movie. It was a scary movie. It was a fun movie. So I can get over that.
Yeah.
If, they do Michael in a hospital again, all right, cool. I'll buy it again. Mm-hmm. But it better not suck.
It worked so good the first time. Why not do it again?
It better not suck.
And then in terms of the production side of Halloween Kills, it looks like all our favorite friends are back from Halloween 2018. It's, once again being directed by David Gordon Green, produced by Jason Blum, penned by David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. But now we got Scott Teems on the thing. Unfortunately, John Carpenter has removed himself from the executive producer position.
Yes, but he is doing the soundtrack.
He is providing the score, which is, hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, his soundtrack on Halloween 2018 was absolutely phenomenal.
It was. That was definitely one of the higher marks of the movie, if nothing else. So we get to look forward to Halloween Kills on October 16th, 2020. 20, and we are counting down.
All right, so wrapping up this special long Halloween edition.
Well, if it's Scarifyer, you know it's
Scarifyer.
long.
So before we rank, what did you people think? So the Internet Movie Database gives Halloween 2018 a 6.6 out of 10.
Okay.
B.
Yeah.
Over average. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 79.
Mm-hmm. Again, over average.
Over average. Metacritic gives it 67%. I think that's a little low.
Yeah.
It's a low ball. And all you freaks and psychos out in Google land, 88% of you like this movie.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's, kind of the going rate.
Yeah.
Gov, out of 5.
All right, my final thoughts on Halloween, the 3rd edition.
And give it we'll do jack-o'-lanterns because it's
Halloween. Okay. So, as I said in the very beginning of this podcast, probably over an hour ago, I was going in very skeptical. I felt this movie just looked, sounded, and smelled funny, and I also heard about the production troubles with the multiple rewrites and the multiple reshoots, so I was not confident going into this movie. I thought it was going to be a train wreck. And I went in, and I was surprised that it wasn't. I've said often about this movie that I have a love-hate relationship with this film, meaning that I hate that I love it. Because for all the technical aspects, the storytelling aspects, and everything that I find to be quality in a horror movie, it falls short, not by a lot, just by a little bit, but it falls short. So I shouldn't love this movie, but I find myself every time I rewatch it, I've rewatched it multiple times, that when the end credits hit, I'm like, I'm so glad I watched this movie again. You know what I mean? It has a good balance of things that make me cringe, but then also things that make me cheer. Is it the movie that we deserved as Halloween fans? No, but it's the one we needed. In terms of it reset up this franchise, it reset up this lore, and it came back, like Force Awakens, to establish why it's the king of slashers. Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing. She's just proven again and again how she is such a heavyweight actor and such a brilliant actor, and that she can come to the slasher film and do the things that she does, give a top-rate performance that she can. Just no other words but class I can use to associate with Jamie Lee Curtis. The Michael Myers in this movie was brutal, fierce, and scary, and the story has a lot of problems, but it's also fun to watch. The homages, as much as they rely heavily on them, are good to see. So with that, the Gov has no choice but to give it 4 jack-o'-lanterns out of 5.
Very good. I am not going to disagree with you at all on your assessment, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of that. I will say this, when it comes to sequels, and especially this movie, it's a sequel. All right? Halloween, the original, from 1978, was lightning in a bottle. And I feel that when people watch the sequels, they love the original so much that they can't help but over-compare it to the original, and how watching the original the first time made them feel, and everything they loved about the original. Mm-hmm. You can't do that.
Right.
Because it's a sequel. You're not, again, Halloween was a once-in-a-lifetime movie. Like a Jaws, like Back to the Future. You know, it was it. And unfortunately, it's never going to be that again. Mm-hmm. You know, it really isn't.
Yeah.
No matter who you have writing it, who's in it, it's just not going to be it again. So appreciate that you got a good sequel and not lightning in a bottle again. Because this franchise has some terrible sequels.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Enjoy a good movie. Mm-hmm. And this movie is a good movie on many different fronts. So, Ace is giving it a 4 jack-o'-lantern rating as well. It's a good movie, guys. It's a fun movie. It brings you back to this world of Halloween, and I can't wait for the sequel.
All right. So that's going to be it to kind of wrap up our first Halloween edition.
First Halloween special
of Scarifyer. We want to thank you guys for sticking with us once again and keeping tracks on of. Again, we are not going away. We're coming back better.
Yeah. And the website will be up by this weekend. Keep an eye on the social media, Twitter and Facebook. We will, as soon as that is fired up, we will be posting the links. And again, all of our content will be there.
Yeah.
From the days when we were Pods and Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And again, including all the shows that we haven't released yet. Some really kick-ass shows like The Shining, Kubrick versus King.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I mean, we had a blast recording that episode, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. So be on the look for all that. Gov, anything else before we wrap this thing up?
Well, yeah, I just want to say, usually at this point in our show, we tease what we're going to do next. We're not going to do that now because, again, we're reformatting, and it's going to be a surprise on what's going to come next. So just stick with us. Still be in contact in all our social media. But real quick, I want to give a shout-out to a friend of Scarifyer. His name is Phil Hall. And he's a journalist, and he's a great guy. He gave us a bit of a nod on Facebook and on social media. So here we are, Phil, returning the favor. He's got a great group on Facebook called Bela Lugosi Dark Prince of Cinema. It's a fantastic group. If you haven't seen it,
absolutely
go over and check it out.
Thanks, Phil, for the shout-out. Again, you guys give us a shout-out. We have no problem returning the favor. That was huge of Phil. So for us at Scarifyer, happy Halloween. We'll see you soon.
Scarifyer.